he steps back like this. I, for one, welcome our Doncician overlord. Also, Kevin Durant talking about LeBron James. Man your battle station. That's our crew. Let's go. Was your name invoked in these comments? Is this a Cheddar Bill situation?
No, the reputation of my colleagues.
Yes, it was. We're going to get to that. We are going to get to that.
I bet we are.
Start with this. Washington football, post Alex Smith, post Colt McCoy, with Mark Sanchez signing Josh Johnson. To the question Coach Jay Gruden received about how a quarterback who's last thrown a pass 7 years ago is a better signing than Colin Kaepernick. Quote, he's been talked about, but we'll probably go in a different direction. You have to have someone who has a similar conceptual awareness. Frank, when I think of conceptual awareness, I think of you. You sign off on that explanation, and what do you think of what Washington's doing here?
It sounds a little disingenuous. Desperate times call for desperate measures. Washington is trying to fight their way into the playoffs. We're essentially talking about your fourth quarterback. How can Colin Kaepernick not be better? It's almost like, I get it, the terminology can be confusing. They're making it seem like we're asking him to throw left-handed. I would think right now, 4 games to go, he would be your best option as a backup quarterback.
Israel Gutierrez?
I mean, I do understand the idea of not bringing in a quarterback where you're not familiar with, right? He's familiar with Josh Johnson from his days as an assistant earlier. But to insult all of our intelligence this way is kind of ridiculous. You are this desperate. You need help. I kind of want to say, hey, maybe Colin Kaepernick doesn't want this job, but it's obvious with what they say that, hey, we're not pursuing Colin. We haven't brought him in for a workout. It's just really insulting to our intelligence. I don't think what more evidence we actually need to know that he's essentially being colluded against. And as Richard Sherman said, there's been no legal action against it. All we can do is just say it over and over again when the evidence continues to pile.
Sarah, when you hear conceptual awareness, what do you think?
It sounds like something Pablo Torre would say, just to confuse us all while trying to make circular point before he actually says anything. And that's kind of what all these coaches have had to do, right, is find new and different ways to spin it as realistic, that you would sign somebody who hasn't thrown a pass since Kim Kardashian and Chris Humphries were getting divorced and Charlie Sheen was talking about winning and Tiger Blood. That's how long it's been, and you're still telling us that this guy is better because of conceptual awareness. But what Izzy said is right, and that's the whole point, is that you are at this point not surprised anymore when he doesn't get the call because there's a collusion lawsuit, because every team has made it clear they don't want him anymore. It's just a matter of how they're going to spin it to try to convince us that it's because of football and not other
Bill
things.
Plaschke.
My favorite part of this was when they said he couldn't fit into the offense. Yeah, the league's 27th ranked offense. Oh, heaven forbid he can't fit into that. Maybe they could tweak it around a little bit for him. This is ridiculous. Josh Johnson, 0-5. 5 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. During all that time, he wasn't throwing a pass in the NFL. Kaepernick was leading the 49ers to 3 NFC championship games. Are you serious? This is beyond. This is going to turn out to be a very dark period in the NFL. We're going to look back at this and say this was a really unenlightened time for NFL owners.
And it's not just the NFL, though. This is Washington here. So, okay, let's just spitball here. The idea of why you don't sign Kaepernick, okay? Even if it's not real, it's the idea of a distraction. Well, this is the franchise that just signed Reuben Foster a week ago, or put a claim in at least for Reuben Foster. Israel, you want to address that? Please, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's obvious. And even if they wanted to say something to the effect of, hey, it's not his politics that we don't agree with, it's just the attention we don't want. And you said it. The Foster situation is an example of negative attention, and they went ahead with it. It's just too obvious. And again, it's just insulting our intelligence.
Everything is a distraction. Bill just brought it up. Here's a guy that's been in big playoff games before. You're fighting for your season. Why wouldn't you roll the dice, especially when you're considering him as a backup? There's a chance that he might get in there. You cannot tell me that you wouldn't trust him and he can't figure out the terminology in about 10 days or so.
Yeah, I mean, look over at the Baltimore Ravens, a team that has completely changed the offensive style that they're using, the style of the quarterback, and they've won 3 in a row.
Plaschke.
They're more accepting, it seems, of alleged violence against women than they are of going against their politics.
That has been a parallel conversation throughout all of this, right? And one other thing is, and Israel, you jogged my memory with this, the idea that, well, we're not sure Colin Kaepernick wants to play football. I remember that being said as a mark against Kaepernick about a year and a half ago. At the same time, I remember Jay Cutler saying, I don't think I want to play football.
I'm
retired. Then he was signed by the Dolphins minutes later. All right, we're going to move on. NBA now, DEFCON 1, let's go. Durant talking about LeBron. Quote, I get why anyone wouldn't want to be in that environment because it's toxic. He said this during a longer interview with Rick Bucher, Bleach Report. for an article titled, "Why Doesn't Anyone Want to Play with LeBron Anymore?" Bill Plaschke, this is now orbiting your account at least. What are you hearing there?
This is smack dab in my account. Oh, so you think it's toxic down here, KD? Then don't come. We don't want you. That's fine. We'll cross that off the list. If by
Settle down,
toxic,
Bill. This
he
is
means
not about you.
he means LeBron gets all the attention. Fine. If by toxic he means he'd have to share the stage with LeBron, yes. LeBron commands all the media attention down here because he's the greatest player ever. That's why he does it. And talk about the media being fanboys and groupies. Well, geez, that means that if listening to a player, an enlightened player, give interesting and insightful comments, and he talks all the time, if that means being a fanboy, then that's ridiculous. Durant, this is a complete cop-out of Durant not wanting to, again, share the limelight and come to a place where it's challenging and exciting and, and energetic. And trying to, just because he can't be the man here. LA doesn't want him if he's going to be like this.
Plaschke.
That's toxic.
Wow.
He's toxic. His quotes are toxic.
Okay, all right, settle down. I mean, this is almost like you got caught up in your own feelings here. You got a little personal for you, Sarah. You're shaking your head no. What's that about?
Yeah, I can't believe he didn't get the flames for the hotness of the take, "We don't want you and we don't need you," to Kevin Durant. And then somehow finishing with, "This is just another sign of Durant not wanting to join big talent." I mean, that's the entire knock on him. The point is that a lot of people in the league are looking at what happened to Durant when he went and joined a stacked team and the criticism and the cupcake nicknames. And maybe they're saying to themselves, "I don't want to be that guy who becomes a barnacle to LeBron's whale," whether that's because of media attention. And you might think it's unfair to say that they're fanboys, and I think probably it is. But that doesn't change that if you're a player like Durant who is sensitive to criticism and you see LeBron getting heaps of praise all the time, that you are not going to internalize that in ways that's going to be difficult for you to join. I understand his point. I'm not saying it's right, but there are plenty of players who seem to be saying exactly what Kevin Durant is, which is, this is a whole different kind of superstar that you're joining. I'd rather do it elsewhere.
But something you said there made me think, if you're going to put this Kevin Durant on a couch and you're going to analyze what's happening here, you think he thinks LeBron is getting off easy by members of the media, something that Durant doesn't get. That's what you're saying here? Gutierrez?
Yeah, which is not actually what's happening, but that's how he's seeing it because of his sensitivity.
What do you think of that?
I do think Durant makes some good points here. He's probably generalizing, probably going a little bit strong. But when you consider the point that, he's underappreciated currently in Golden State, right? So maybe he's projecting a little bit and saying, hey, people playing next to LeBron will further be underappreciated. You could say Kyrie Irving felt the same way, and that's why he demanded a trade. I would argue, though, that there are talents out there, somebody like Kawhi Leonard, who probably doesn't want a whole lot of spotlight, who doesn't want that media attention, and can play alongside LeBron James. And if you consider the style of play. Listen, LeBron James is going to continue to decline. Even when he was next to Kyrie Irving, there were plenty of times where he just let Kyrie Irving go to work, especially when he was hot, and he could save his legs. And at this point in his career, he's going to need that more and more, and I'm pretty sure he'd be willing to allow that. So while I do think Kevin had some decent points there, it's a little bit of old sort of revisionist history and a little bit of stuff that he's sort of projecting maybe because he's a little underappreciated.
Frank Isola.
Bill Plaschke is too close to the forest to see Boban Marjanovic, because here's the deal, Bill. He could go to the Clippers. That's the team that wants him. Go ask Doc Rivers and Steve Ballmer if they don't want Kevin Durant. It's not a knock against you. And Izzy brought up a great point. Kyrie Irving is a respected player in the league. The fact that he left there and Kyrie Irving talks to a lot of players, there has something to be said about this. Remember last year, all we heard all year long, Paul George, he's going to the Lakers. He's definitely going to the Lakers. Did that happen? No. One other thing to know about Kevin Durant, which I think is funny, way back when the Oklahoman had the headline on the sports section that said, Mr. Unreliable. Remember how upset that Kevin Durant got at that? He wanted the media to be fanboys for him, which is surprising now that he has a problem, that the perception that he thinks the media is that way for LeBron.
Didn't the Oklahoman issue an apology after that? Do I remember that correctly as well?
Which was
well, the point is both things can be true, right? LeBron could be a kind of guy that maybe some people don't want to get in his orbit because it's difficult to play with him, and that Kevin Durant is hyper-analyzing this situation. Plaschke, you can get back in.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's not that I won't say that the Lakers can't use Kevin Durant. That's absurd. Of course they can use Kevin Durant. Of course they would want Kevin Durant. But if he doesn't want to be in the environment where LeBron is the man and when LeBron kind of runs everything and LeBron carries everybody with him, then he shouldn't come here, because that's what it's like down here now. And they will, if they get a second superstar, they will win a championship. So if he wants to win another championship, he would come here.
And to be fair, if he wants a soft media, come right here in New York. Because we're not as tough as people think we are. We're not as tough as people think we are.
Did anybody hear Plaschke say if he wants a championship, come to LA? You realize he's in Golden State right now. You realize that's where the championships have been.
Right, but if he wants another one.
Oh, boy. Oh, come on.
We move on. Let's talk Markelle Fultz. Doctors, scrub in. Neurogenic thoracic outlet syndrome. What do you know about it? You know nothing about it. But it's a compression of the brachial plexus ipso facto. You don't feel things well in the armal region. Sixers are saying Markelle Fultz can be back in 3 to 6 weeks. This entire team should rename itself the 3 to Sixers. That there's a medical diagnosis here, Israel, does that make you think we're closer or further from solving Fultz's problems?
It makes me think that this is the gamble that Markelle Fultz is going with, and hopefully that he's right. Hopefully these doctors are right, and there is something wrong with him. I do not believe for 1 second that 3 to 6 weeks will fix this, even if you talk about, hey, it's just something with therapy. Well, from everything I've read, this hitch didn't really develop as a result. It was sort of compensating over time. So even with that therapy to fix whatever the problem is in there, I have a hard time believing he can just fix his jumper after that. And if he has to remove a rib from all, this is all very confusing.
Whoa,
if
doctor,
this is
doctor.
actually the issue,
Yeah. Remove a rib? Is that what we're talking about?
If this is actually the issue, then we've all won here, right?
Yeah. Frank Isola?
Well, what causes it? Is it genetics? Did he get in some kind of accident? There's been some rumors out there, maybe like in a scooter or a motorcycle type of accident. You know, Kevin McHale said on NBA TV, and I agree with this, and Kevin McHale's been a player, an executive, and a coach. He said, you can go all over looking for a reason which something could be bothering you. He believes it's a confidence issue, and I think as a number 1 overall pick in the draft, if you're second or third and you're struggling like this, it's a big deal. It's a lot different when you're the number 1 overall pick. And how come the Sixers aren't involved? To me, that says a lot.
So even with this medical diagnosis, you still believe there is something going on where Markelle Fultz
I think it's both.
is struggling with playing basketball in between the ears right now. Bill Plaschke, how about you?
Yeah, I agree with Frank. It's very suspect when the 76ers aren't involved in this announcement. I think he's probably trying to buy him some time. Maybe there's something here medically, but I think generally they're trying to buy him some time to get it figured out.
Sarah Spain.
Yeah, the cynic in me says the fact that we keep hearing from his agent/lawyer instead of the team and that they're the ones that pushed for these 10 different experts to come look at him, that tells me that they're trying to find a physical issue that they can pin it on so that we all move away from the mental, which is fascinating too when you think about it, that they're hoping and crossing their fingers that physically something is wrong with him because we feel more comfortable accepting that and putting a timeline on that than we do understanding the mental issues and the yips. Now, best case scenario is that this has always been the problem. They couldn't identify it before, and it has affected his confidence in ways that seem to be mental. Physically, you fix them and those go away. That's everyone's hope.
It's been an injury we've seen in other sports, like baseball primarily. And for baseball pitchers, it hasn't been a good injury to come back from. Basketball might be different. Taking a break right here by ourselves on the other side. Big game tonight, Philadelphia and Toronto. Make a pick as we go away here. Plaschke?
Philadelphia.
Raptors.
Spain? Gutierrez?
Raptors.
Isola.
Raptors.
Toronto.
That went
Tony,
well.
this is a toxic environment.
Brought to you by Chase, coming to you from the Seaport District at Pier 17.
Gutierrez, Isola, Spain, and Bill Plaschke with some work to do in buy or sell. Luka Doncic. Let's talk about Luka. Look at this pass. Look at this step back he has in the biggest moment in the game. And look at his numbers through 22 games compared to some of the greats of all time, Larry Bird, Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, LeBron. Those numbers also look like some rookies recently. Ben Simmons was 16.88 last year. Michael Carter-Williams had very big numbers across that sphere. But Luka Doncic right now, Bill, are you buying what you're seeing or are you selling what you're seeing?
Oh, I'm buying what I see, and he's more than just the numbers like some of those other great rookies he's compared to. He's a leader on the team. The Mavs are 10-1 entering the fourth quarter because this kid plays down the clutch, and he plays all over the floor, and he's energized the entire franchise.
Sarah Spain?
Yeah, I'm absolutely buying him. I don't know about comparing him to superstars yet because you mentioned Michael Carter-Williams. We've already seen some rookies that take a step back in their second year, but the leadership ability, the raw skills, the talent, athleticism, I'm just interested to see if it matters at all for this Mavs team. 2-8 on the road, and there is such a big bunch in the Western Conference. I don't know if it plays out to wins or just good rookie
Israel
play.
Gutierrez?
He even looks bigger than I thought he would in the NBA, which is kind of crazy because you saw highlights of him over in Europe. But look, everything about him, the way he plays, it definitely translates from his European days to now. And like they just like him. If you watch, he's got a bit of a swagger to him with a little bit of a Kristaps Porzingis situation there. And I just think he's great for that franchise.
EuroLeague MVP as a teenager, Frank. So you saw this coming as well. Some NBA teams in it. What do you think of the teams that passed on him? What do you think they're thinking?
Yeah, and that And that's the thing. You know, Atlanta is always going to be talking about, you know, should we have traded Luka Doncic for the rights to Trae Young? And we're not going to close the book on Trae Young yet, but Luka Doncic has a special quality about him. And you know what? He's a terrific European player in a great environment with a great coach, kind of like Dirk Nowitzki, the guy that he's ultimately replacing.
Right. I mean, that's the thing. But you mentioned that, of course, Atlanta's going to be thinking about because they traded out, but it's also number one, Phoenix. It's also Sacramento. I mean, there's plenty of drafts where the best player was taken 3 or taken 4. Real quick, though, the idea that he's the best rookie since Michael Jordan or LeBron James, we showed up those numbers before, and then we were like, well, what did Ben Simmons do last year? In his first year in the league, and it was just 1 point fewer with the same rebounds and assists. We'll move on. Buy or sell two, Hassan Whiteside. He left the bench in court last night with about 40 seconds left in the game. He wasn't playing in the fourth quarter, so there was some thought about what this was about. Dwayne Wade said Whiteside told him he had to go to the bathroom. We don't need to get to the bottom of that, of course, Israel, but the idea of Whiteside in Miami right now?
I mean, there's a lot of things that's wrong with the Miami Heat, the way they're playing. Goran Dragic has been out for a while, but it's always going to look like Hassan Whiteside is the malcontent. He's always going to look like, just because of his actions, he's never really been one to hide his emotions. And when he's sitting in the fourth quarter and he's got a $100 million contract that they just signed him to a couple of years ago, he's wondering why you even have me here. So I'm not saying that he's justified in his acts. I'm just saying that when things are not going well for the Miami Heat, he's the guy that's going to make it obvious.
Tim Reynolds of the Associated Press in Miami reported that Hassan Whiteside told him he had stomach discomfort. I'll tell you what, for a guy that needed to run to go to the bathroom, he certainly took his time getting there. You know, in the third quarter, he got bench along with the rest of the team. They got outscored 30-12. Aaron Gordon scored 16 points. He outscored the Miami Heat all by himself in the third quarter.
Bill Plaschke.
It's like, as he said, this is who he is. This is why a lot of teams were reluctant to pursue him when you had a chance to pick him up. You got to take the good with the bad. He's playing better this year, and he's more involved this year than he has been in the past. He just has these little temper tantrums.
But if it was that his stomach hurt and he needed to go to the bathroom, this is who he is? Yes, he's a human that needs to go to the bathroom.
He wasn't running, no. He wasn't running off. If your stomach's hurting, you're running.
Maybe, or maybe your stomach hurts and you can't run. Spain, how about you?
Yeah, you asked us to get to the bottom of this, and then when Frank says what he said, you poo-poo him on it, but I was thinking the exact same thing. If something's brewing, you're going to hustle your way out because you're the only reason you're leaving early is because it's coming and you got to go. He was strolling, ambling even, and it's to Izzy's point, he's been sitting in the fourth for quite some time. He can't stretch the floor. He can't hit free throws. He's a big man that's a liability down the stretch for them, so I'm surprised he's suddenly frustrated about it now. He was not playing in the fourth last season either. He's a max guy who they can't use down the stretch. That's a problem for that team.
Are you going to use your FaceTime on this as well, Sarah Spain? That was a lot of it.
Penalized her for that.
Plaschke, and Sarah, you'll be happy to know your elimination number 2, okay? How about that? Israel Gutierrez, Frank Isola, our showdown next. No time for chitter-chatter. Let's go. Let's do it right now. Well, let's take a break.
Sarah did Woody.
All Access with Israel Gutierrez and Frank Isola in Showdown 8. In front of the scenes, look at Showdown. Good luck. Showdown 1. An answer to the question, how much is a bounce pass to an opposing fan worth? $25,000. That's what the NBA fined Patrick Beverley. Let's play the Goldilocks game. Israel, too much, not enough, or just right?
I think it's just right, and it's almost sort of preemptive here. You know Patrick Beverley's feisty. You know he was upset with that fan, and I know it seemed like just a bounce pass, but it was a strong bounce pass. You got to nip that in the bud as soon as you can.
Patrick Beverley said that he was being taunted, derogatory language. Meanwhile, the Mavs broadcasters all know who this fan is, so I can't imagine he goes, sits in the front row, and curses like that. Plus, it was a bounce pass.
You can't imagine that? I think we should pay people for bounce passes that crisp. That's what I think. We'll give the point to Israel Gutierrez. We'll move on. Showdown 2.
Here we go. So, Sean Gallagher trying out for the Globetrotters. Hey, what do you say about that?
What do you say about that, Frank? Sean Gallagher on live TV hitting the shot and I just walking out. Was that the right reaction from Gallagher?
I think it was, and the Washington Generals are not supposed to beat the Harlem Globetrotters. So not only the Bucks pretty good, but their media guys can make shots too. Not bad.
Sean Gallagher was so smooth with that. He was talking as he released it. Looks like he's practiced it a bunch of times, but who cares? That's live television. He should retire. He's done. Come on this show.
I thought, if anything, he didn't celebrate enough. Honestly, I hit a paper toss with the direct hit in the camera lens, and nobody could talk to me for an hour. I'm celebrating. Point, Gabe, FaceTime, Israel Gutierrez. Let's see if you can stick the landing like Gallagher did.
Well, the Spurs and the Lakers play tonight on ESPN, and I'm sure everybody's going to want to watch LeBron and Bills Lakers. But, man, what's going on with the Spurs lately? They've lost 3 of their last 4 games, all 3 by 30 or more points. And if you look at the roster, you look at the makeup, you're talking DeMar DeRozan, LaMarcus Aldridge, Rudy Gay getting the bulk of the shots. Those guys have been primarily isolation players their whole career. If Greg Popovich takes this team to the playoffs, arguably his best coaching job.
Gutierrez. All right, can I Sean Gallagher it now? Can I crumple this up? Can I do it backwards?
Won't work.